Hey everyone, I think I'm getting a more and more cynical view of the comic industry as a whole. I'm not trying to. I've already been, I don't know, maybe I'm already just suspicious of people in general when it comes to a lot of things. Uh, I won't get into that, but I could have gone down so many roads of content creation with problems that I see that are out there in the world, and just blatant people taking advantage of other people, people manipulating other people right out in the open, provable ways. And I think it's obvious to a lot of people. But just in the comic book industry, I wanted to do videos about comics because I like comics. I think there's something worth preserving in the comic book medium. I'm not even going to say the industry, because the industry, I'm not exaggerating. And people are just learning this. Like, here's comic tropes. I think another guy that likes comics, obviously, he's got a comic book channel. He's very passionate about comics, but he's more of a, I guess, a reader as opposed to a creator. Once you start getting into the business of comics, you realize how awful people can be. And when I say that, there's backlash. I think a lot of the people that hate it stop watching my videos, but there's always backlash. You'll get people in the comment section saying, no, just don't crap on things that I love. I love comics. I don't love the comic book industry, and there are many people in the industry who are just terrible people for several reasons. So we're gonna go down this rabbit hole, and man, why it is such a mess. All right, so comic tropes. He says, I feel naive. Reading all these stories about the toxic elements within the industry I love is angering and depressing. I sincerely never would have guessed there was as much harassment as we are learning about in the last few weeks. Yeah, that honestly, every time I look at comic book news, this is it. This is all you see is skeletons coming out of the closets, people accused of some very, very terrible things, some not terrible things, and I think this is where the problem comes in. Let no tragedy go wasted, I guess. But anytime there are serious, credible accusations, provable, verifiable uh, misdeeds done by individuals within the comic book industry, you're also going to get the manipulators who jump onto the bandwagon and figure out, there's these people other people I don't like. How can I get them flushed out of the industry? I'm going to tie them to this sinking ship here, and let them go down with it as well. This is why it's so terrible on so many fronts, because yes, you have some people that abuse their power in the worst kind of ways, and then when any of this comes to light, you're going to get people that try and exploit this, the feeling of wanting justice. They'll exploit it, and they'll try to sink other people's comic book careers. This is insane. Some of the most disgusting stuff I've ever seen. And so here we go. So on one end of the spectrum, Jim Gibbons posts, want to see change in comics? Look at this timeline. 5 years ago, it was widely and accurately reported that Scott Alley groped Joe Harris in a crowded bar. That's right, a man groping a man. Now, Joe Harris said something about this and was apparently widely ignored. Could it have something to do with the fact that he's a man? Maybe there's something to that. Believe all women. Okay. He continued to get paid by Dark Horse and others to edit comics for 5 years. 5 years. Here we continue to the next post. 8 hours ago, Shauna Gore bravely shared a horrific story about Scott. 7 hours ago, Mike Mignola severed ties with Scott. Shortly after, Dark Horse tweeted that they supported Mike. 5 hours ago, Dark Horse announced they're finally severing ties with Scott. An important creator, a major. So his point is basically that because Mike Mignola severed ties, the company listened, because he is basically, pulling the purse strings with his book. All right. That's one point. That's one angle to look at it. The other angle is brought up here by Neil Kled is that the man is the one that got ignored, the male victim, and the female victim got listened to. Okay, another angle to look at it. Any way you look at it, the comic book industry is full of manipulation. The whole like the sexual component is super gross, and it happens. Now, the other part of that is manipulation, which is far more widespread, far more widespread. The more that I look into this, the more that I'm learning about comics and meeting more people and just seeing how things work, the more I'm like, I really, really, really like to just be independent. I like to run my own show. Never be accused of anything like that. uh, because I just don't work with any of these just insane people. I don't understand this. Uh, so here you go. Here's now the other end of the spectrum. This guy in the industry is now not letting a good tragedy go to waste, and so he's going to use this to try and malign Alterna Comics. In case you didn't know, I am an Alterna Comics creator. Alterna is publishing Downcast later. After I get out my crowdfunded version, they're going to do a newsprint version in single issue floppies. And this is the kind of thing you get. So Alterna Distribution, which by the way is not the publishing arm. This is another distribution model, which would be a lot like Diamond Distribution as far as just getting books places. It's not a publisher. Okay. They announce it, whatever. You can go to alternadistribution.com and submit your books there to be distributed to comic book shops that are signing up to a new distributor. So it's just another option for people to get their books places. But then this becomes personal. He says, don't submit. They have aligned themselves with bigots and are connected with some heinous ideology and creators. Now, the elephant in the room is the strange thing here is to align themselves with bigots and heinous ideology and creators. That's kind of me. I was, I guess, one of them. One of the no touch, you shall not publish writers that Alterna took a chance on and published me. Why? Because I hang out with the wrong people, and because I am outspoken about the garbage, the political manipulation and garbage that is in the comic book industry. And Alterna chose to publish me. I associate with, the people that they hate most, Ethan Van Sciver, your boy Zach, Diversity in Comics, Comicsgate. Like we are all on the same team. Okay. I like and respect a lot of these guys who have also seen what a problem the comic book industry is, and Alterna took a chance on publishing me. Which the crazy thing is, you can speak out. What's the difference here? You can speak out about this dude Scott Alley, and will your career be destroyed? No, you might be ignored. But on the other hand, if you speak out against the political manipulation, and it is widespread in the industry, you can speak out against that, and you will be blacklisted. This is a clown world. All right, so he's going to quote REM Famous of all people, who, by the way, they're saying this thing, and I've seen REM Famous say this thing. I'm blocked here. I don't really care, but they're saying this thing that Alterna Comics, Peter Simeti was blaming REM Famous for him getting swatted. That has never been true. Peter has never actually said that. If the police, the information that he sent to the police was that, as far, this is all public. I don't have any extra information that you all don't have. Okay, but they police obviously are asking for anybody that might have a beef with him, and Remfamous has spent hours and hours and hours on Twitter, like an unhealthy degree of time on Twitter, unbelievable amount of time on Twitter, griping about Peter Simeti and that he's a white supremacist and crap like that. So yeah, I'd probably tell the police too. You've got an enemy like that just breathing fire over your name. You might as well tell the police when something terrible happens. All right, here we go. He continues. The last thing you need is to tarnish your career before it even starts. It's really that easy. And I'd hate to see that happen to creators who aren't as in the loop or privy to our weird industry. And here you go. This is where manipulation starts. Most people, just in passing, might see this guy on Twitter. They follow him or something, and he says, "This is a bad, bad company that does bad, bad things." And they're going to take his word for it. That's the end of the story. That's how the comic book industry works. You put out a narrative and you're going to hope that people take your word for it. This happens all the time. It's absolutely related to all this sexual misconduct crap that's going around, is that everybody uh, they're trying to get a narrative out there and you can take their word for it. Right, continues. It's also important to know that lots of prominent comic book stories cut ties to this company too, which means nothing. You know what? I'll say this: I have cut ties to Marvel Comics. What does that say about Marvel? Uh, there's so many people have cut ties to any comic book company. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, and it is no evidence at all. All right, the next thing is I think other good alternative, yeah, cringy. He knows it's cringy. He says, sorry. Companies, if you're looking to pitch horror stuff, would be Vault, Aftershock, and Dark Horse. And then he did. Oh, did he not? He had more to say on here. I know he did. He did say that some people weren't getting paid by Alterna. I'm an Alterna creator. I have no indication that I won't get paid. Here's the thing, though: people don't realize if you're going to publish a comic and you're going to go through a publisher, your what you get paid depends upon sales. Unless they're just going to buy outright or pay you some kind of page rate, you can't have it both ways. That's not how it works. If you want to have all of the profits from some kind of a book, then you make your own book and don't have a publisher. You don't need a publisher. If you want a publisher because you think that they can help you out and get outreach to people that you're not going to be able to reach, they're going to take a cut of the profits. Sometimes a big cut. Image Comics does the same thing. Their business model might be a little bit different, but essentially it's creator-owned comics. It's not any different. Anyway, all of this is neither here nor there. It is, there's genuinely tragic things happening, evidence coming out in the comic book industry of corruption. And so how are we going to fix that? More corruption by blacklisting, telling everyone to not distribute through a distributor because they ought to go to Vault instead. That's the solution. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is for people self-publishing their comics that want to distribute them somewhere. Anyway, this stuff gets ridiculous. Sometimes I want to laugh at it. Sometimes I'm just scratching my head. I don't know what to make out of all this other than what I've given to you. So I appreciate you listening this far. If you have listened this far, then you probably like this content. So leave it a like and subscribe. That really helps me out. And know that doing my own comics is a great medium. I keep doing my own comics, and I like the idea of being in control and not having to deal with all of the insanity that is in the wider world of comics. And so if you're interested in my books, this is the next one coming out, Fatal: Flynn's Alien Termination and the Logistics. It's an amazing sci-fi story. I'm really, really excited for this, and it just has jaw-dropping art by Charlie Snogans. Sign up for the pre-launch page. It is in the link in the description below. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.